They say money can buy anything. For Leo Vance, it bought him the right to treat people like trash. He thought burning me with boiling coffee and getting me fired was just a fun Friday night. He thought I was alone. But he didn't look into the shadows. He didn't see the man in the corner booth. The man the whole city fears. Before you watch how this billionaire's life fell apart in less than 60 seconds, do me a favor. If you believe that no one is too powerful for karma, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. You're going to want to see every second of how the Underworld King delivered his justice. They say that if you stay quiet for long enough time, you start to blend into the room. You become like the paint on the walls or the fabric on the chairs. My name is Amelia, and for 5 years I have been a ghost. I work at the Gilded Leaf, the kind of restaurant where the menus don't have prices because if you have to ask how much something costs, you probably shouldn't be eating there. To the people who come here, I am not a human being with a life, a family, or a heart. I am just a pair of hands. Hands that carry heavy trays of lobster. Hands that pour wine that costs more than my monthly rent. I have learned to move without making a sound. I have learned to smile even when my back feels like it's going to break and my feet are throbbing with pain. People think that being quiet means you are weak. They think that because I don't argue back when they are rude, I don't have a soul. But they are wrong. Very wrong. Being quiet is actually a superpower. When people think you aren't listening, they say things they shouldn't. They show their true faces. My mind is like a secret diary, recording every sneer, every arrogant comment, and every shove. I remember my mother told me, "Amelia, hard work is its own reward. Keep your head down, do your job, and the world will be kind to you." For a long time I believed her. I thought that if I was the perfect waitress, I would be safe. I didn't know that on this specific Friday night, my life was about to collide with a monster. And I certainly didn't know that the most feared man in the city, the man they call the Underworld King, was sitting in the shadows of table 12, watching every single thing that happened to me. He was the only one who saw me as a person. And he was the only one who knew that the storm was coming. The air in the restaurant didn't just change when he walked in. It felt like the oxygen was sucked out of the room. The heavy oak doors swung open with a bang, and Leo Vance stepped inside. He didn't just walk. He marched like he owned the ground beneath his feet. Leo was the heir to the Vance empire. He had billions of dollars, but he didn't have a single drop of kindness in his body. He was wearing a suit that was so white it looked like it was made of snow, and a gold watch that sparkled too brightly under the chandeliers. He was surrounded by a group of friends who laughed at every word he said. Their laughter didn't sound happy. It sounded sharp like broken glass. It was the kind of laughter people use when they want to make sure everyone else feels smaller than them. My manager, Mrs. Gable, was usually a very stern and scary woman. She would yell at us if a fork was an inch out of place. But the moment she saw Leo Vance, she changed. She turned into a servant. She bowed her head and hurried over to him with a fake smile that looked painful. Then she turned to me. She grabbed my upper arm so hard I felt her fingernails dig into my skin. "Amelia," she hissed in my ear. Her breath smelled like coffee and nerves. "That is Leo Vance. His family owns half the buildings on this street. If he wants something, you get it before he even finishes asking. If he looks bored, you entertain him. If you make even one tiny mistake, I will fire you before you can blink. Do you understand me?" I nodded slowly. My heart was thumping against my ribs like a trapped bird. I felt a cold shiver go down my spine. I had served mean people before, but Leo Vance was different. He looked like he enjoyed hurting people. I picked up my tray and walked toward his table, trying to keep my breathing steady. I told myself it was just another shift. I told myself I was invisible. But Leo Vance didn't want me to be invisible. He wanted a victim. Leo was sitting at the center of the table, acting like he was a king on a throne. He was telling a story about how he had destroyed a small family business just because the owner didn't greet him with enough respect. He was waving a cigar around, and the smoke was thick and bitter. Every time he spoke, his friends would cheer. I approached the table with a silver pot of coffee. It was fresh and boiling hot, exactly how he had demanded it. I waited for a break in his conversation. I didn't want to interrupt him. When he finally stopped to take a breath, I stepped forward. "Your coffee, Mr. Vance," I said in my quietest, most polite voice. I leaned in carefully. I was being more precise than a surgeon. I set the porcelain cup down on the saucer without making a single sound. But just as I began to pour, I saw Leo's eyes shift. He wasn't looking at his friends anymore. He was looking at me. There was a mean, playful glint in his eyes, the look a cat gives a mouse right before it bites. He didn't move his hand by accident. He waited until the stream of hot coffee was flowing, and then he suddenly jerked his elbow out. He hit my arm with a lot of force. The silver pot tilted, and the boiling liquid splashed over the rim. It didn't just hit the table. It soaked through my sleeve and poured directly onto my bare skin. The pain was like nothing I had ever felt. It felt like a million bees were stinging me all at once. It felt like someone had pressed a hot iron against my arm and wouldn't let go. I gasped, the pain making my vision go blurry. The tray slipped from my hands and hit the marble floor with a crash that sounded like a gunshot. The whole restaurant went silent. I was clutching my arm, tears already forming in my eyes. I looked at Leo, expecting him to say he was sorry. But he didn't. He leaned back in his chair and started to laugh. "Look at this mess," he shouted. "You clumsy, stupid girl. You spilled coffee on a suit that costs more than your life. Are you deaf or just an idiot?" I couldn't even speak. I just stood there, burning, while the man who hurt me laughed in my face. The pain in my arm was throbbing. Felt like the skin was bubbling. I looked around the room for help. I saw the other customers looking down at their plates. They didn't want to get involved. They were afraid of Leo Vance's power. My manager was running toward us, but I could tell from her face that she wasn't coming to help me. She was coming to apologize to Leo. But then I felt a strange sensation. It was like a cold breeze in a hot room. I looked toward the back of the restaurant, into the corner booth where the shadows were deep. There sat a man. He was alone. He didn't have any fancy jewelry or loud friends. He was wearing a dark suit that seemed to soak up the light around him. He was holding a glass of plain water, and he hadn't moved a muscle since the tray hit the floor. His face looked like it was made of granite, hard and unbreakable. He wasn't looking at the mess on the floor. He wasn't looking at the manager. He was looking straight at me. His eyes were the most intense thing I had ever seen. They weren't mean like Leo's, but they were powerful. They were the eyes of someone who sees the truth. I felt like he was looking past my uniform and past my tears. He was looking at me. Through the chaos and the shouting. He gave me a very small, slow nod. It was so subtle that no one else saw it. But it changed everything for me. It was a signal. It was a way of saying, "I see you. You are not invisible. And this is not over." For a second, the pain in my arm didn't matter. I realized that Leo Vance might have the money, but this man in the shadows had something else. He had gravity. He had authority. I didn't know his name yet, but I knew that he was the most dangerous person in the room. And for some reason he was on my side. Leo Vance wasn't satisfied with just burning me. He wanted to destroy me completely so that he wouldn't look like the bad guy. He stood up and pointed a finger at me. His face twisted into a fake mask of anger. "She did it on purpose," Leo yelled at the manager. "I saw her eyes. She's one of those people who hates anyone with money. She attacked me. She tried to burn my face." The manager didn't even stop to ask me what happened. She didn't look at my arm, which was already turning a bright, angry red. She just looked at Leo and started bowing. "I am so sorry, Mr. Vance. This is unacceptable. She will be dealt with immediately." Mrs. Gable turned to me, and the look in her eyes was pure hatred. "Amelia, take off that apron. You are finished here. You are fired for assaulting a guest. And don't bother asking for your paycheck. We're keeping it to pay for the damage you caused to Mr. Vance's suit." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her that he pushed me. I wanted to tell her that I was the one who was hurt. But the words wouldn't come out. My throat felt like it was full of sand. I realized that in this world, a rich man's lie is more powerful than a poor girl's truth. I walked to the back room, my legs feeling like lead. I took off my apron, grabbed my old thin coat, and walked out the back door. The moment I stepped outside, the sky opened up. The rain was heavy and cold. I stood in the alleyway, the water mixing with the tears on my face. I was 24 years old, I had no job, no money, and a burn that was screaming in pain. I felt like I had been erased. But then, the sound of a very expensive car engine filled the alley. A black sedan, darker than the night itself, pulled up right in front of me. The window rolled down, and the man from the shadows looked out at me. The man didn't get out of the car. He didn't have to. His presence was enough to fill the entire alley. Up close, he looked even more powerful. He had a scar near his temple that looked like a lightning bolt, and his hands were large and steady. He reached out and handed me a handkerchief. It was made of pure white silk, and it felt cooler than ice. "Apply pressure to the burn, Amelia," he said. His voice was a low rumble, like distant thunder. It wasn't loud, but it made me want to listen. It was the kind of voice that people obeyed without asking why. "How do you know my name?" I whispered. My voice sounded small and shaky in the rain. He didn't answer the question. Instead, he looked back at the restaurant door. "People like Leo Vance think that the world is a playground built just for them," he said. "They think they can break things and people and never have to pay for it. They forget that the world is actually a balance. And when the balance is tipped too far, it always snaps back." He looked at me again. "Go home. Clean the wound. Use the silk, it has medicine on it. Sleep well, Amelia. Tomorrow, the balance will be corrected." "Who are you?" asked, my heart racing. "Some call me a businessman," he said with a very tiny smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Others call me the Underworld King. But tomorrow you can just call me the Witness." The window rolled up, and the car glided away into the fog like a ghost. I stood there holding the silk cloth. It was the most expensive thing I had ever touched. For the first time that night, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like I was part of a plan. I didn't sleep much that night. My arm felt better because of the silk cloth, but my mind was spinning. I knew I had to go back to the restaurant. I had left my mother's gold locket in my locker, and it was the only thing I had left of her. I couldn't let Mrs. Gable throw it away. When I arrived at the Gilded Leaf the next morning, things were different. Usually, the street was busy with delivery trucks and people walking to work. But today, the entire block was lined with black SUVs. Men in dark suits and sunglasses were standing every 10 feet. They looked like soldiers, but they weren't in uniform. I tried to walk toward the back door, but a man stopped me. "The restaurant is closed for a private meeting," he said. "I just need to get my things," I replied. He looked at my face, then at the white silk cloth I still had wrapped around my arm. He stepped aside immediately. "Mr. Thorne is expecting you. Go through the front." I walked through the front doors. The restaurant was silent. The tables were set, but there was no music and no chatter. In the center of the room, Leo Vance was sitting with his father and a group of lawyers. They were laughing and talking about a merger, a deal that would give Leo's family control over the city's entire shipping industry. Leo saw me and his face twisted into a sneer. "What are you doing here, trash? I told the manager to have you arrested if you showed your face." But before he could say another word, the doors to the kitchen opened. Mr. Thorne, the man from the car, walked out. The room didn't just go quiet. It went cold. Leo's father, a man who usually acted like a king, actually stood up so fast he knocked over his chair. "Mr. Thorne, we didn't know you were coming to the signing personally." Thorne didn't look at the father. He looked at me. "Amelia, you're just in time." Mr. Thorne didn't sit down. He stood at the head of the table, looking like an ancient judge. Leo Vance was trying to look tough, but I could see his legs shaking under the table. "The merger is cancelled," Thorne said. His voice was like a cold wind. Leo's father gasped. "Cancelled? But we've been working on this for a year. We've invested millions. You can't just cancel it." "I can," Thorne said. "I own the debt on your ships. I own the land your offices sit on. And I don't do business with people who lack character." Leo found his voice, though it sounded high and squeaky. "This is because of the Waitress, isn't it? You're ruining a billion-dollar deal over a clumsy girl who spilled coffee." Thorne turned his head slowly toward Leo. The look in his eyes was so sharp it felt like it could cut through metal. "She didn't spill the coffee, Leo. You pushed her. And then you lied about it." "You can't prove that," Leo shouted. "It's my word against hers. Who is going to believe a servant over me?" Thorne pulled a small remote from his pocket and pressed a button. A giant projector screen lowered from the ceiling. "I don't use the restaurant's security cameras," Thorne said. "They are easy to erase. I prefer my own." The screen flickered to life. It was a high-definition video taken from the corner booth. You could see everything. You could see Leo's eyes looking at Amelia's arm. You could see his elbow move with purpose. You could see him laughing while she was in pain. And most importantly, the microphones had caught his voice. "Are you deaf or just stupid?" His father put his head in his hands. In that moment, Leo Vance's reputation was destroyed forever. He wasn't a powerful heir anymore. He was just a bully who had been caught. The room was silent as the video ended. Leo Vance looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. His father stood up, his face white with shame. "The deal is dead. Our reputation is gone. Leo, what have you done?" Thorne didn't waste time on them. He signaled to his men, and Leo was escorted out of the building. He wasn't being arrested, not yet, but his life was over. No one would ever do business with him again. He would spend the rest of his life as a joke. Thorne then turned to Mrs. Gable, the manager, who was hiding in the kitchen doorway. "You fired a girl to hide a crime," Thorne said. "You chose power over truth. You are no longer the manager of this establishment. In fact, you are banned from every business I own. Pack your things." Finally, Thorne walked over to me. He looked at the silk cloth on my arm. "How is the burn?" "It's healing," I said. My voice was finally strong. I didn't feel like a ghost anymore. Thorne reached into his pocket and pulled out a set of silver keys. "I just bought this restaurant from the previous owner. He was in a lot of debt and I decided to collect. I don't have the time to run a kitchen. But I saw how you worked. You were the most professional person in this room yesterday." He held the keys out to me. "Do you want to be the manager, Amelia? Or do you want to come work for me? I need people who can see the things others miss. People who know the value of silence." I looked at the keys, then I looked at Mr. Thorne. I thought about all the years I spent being invisible. I realized that I didn't want to just manage a restaurant. I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be the person who stands in the shadows and makes sure the world stays in balance. "I want to work for you," I said. Thorne smiled. It was a real smile this time. "Good. Your first lesson starts now. Never forget where you came from, but never let anyone keep you there. They say that karma is a mirror. If you do good things, the world eventually reflects that goodness back to you. But if you do evil, the mirror breaks, and the broken glass will always find a way to cut you." Leo Vance is a name that people have forgotten. He lost his wealth, his friends, and his pride. He learned the hard way that you should never bully someone just because you think they are beneath you. But my name is Amelia. I am no longer a ghost. I no longer blend into the wallpaper. I sit in the corner booth now. I watch, I listen, and I record. Because the world is still full of people like Leo Vance. People who think they are untouchable. And they are wrong. Because as long as I am watching, the balance will always be corrected. In the end, karma didn't rush. But it never forgot. This is revenge served by karma with Amelia. In the end, Leo Vance learned that the loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. He lost his empire, his name, and his future, all because he thought a quiet waitress didn't matter. I took a chance and joined Mr. Thorne because I want to make sure the quiet ones are always protected. But I want to know what you would have done. If you were in my shoes, would you have taken the keys to the restaurant and stayed safe? Or would you have joined the Underworld King to fight for justice? Write, Team Amelia, in the comments if you're glad Leo got what he deserved. If this story moved you, please like the video and share it with one person who needs to remember that karma never forgets. Thank you for watching, and remember, the shadows are always watching.